Here's an overview I want you to pay attention to. So when we talk about 7202, you have a form that applies to the years 2020 and 2021 during COVID, so to speak. Okay, so I want to show you real quick on the screen here what the form looks like, what the form looked like in 2020, and what the form also looked like in 2021. So you have a clear idea which year is applicable to your situation. But this is your last chance to claim your tax refund because of the expiration time frame here. So for 2020, as you can see on the screen here, you have a part one. So part one actually relates to a credit for sick leave for certain self-employed individuals. So the form itself is pretty straightforward. So from line 1 all the way to line 24, you just follow the instructions here. Like from line 1, the number of days you are unable to perform services as a self-employed individual during COVID, okay? And you just follow the math all the way to the bottom. And I want to show you the second screenshot. This is part 2. So part 2 actually is credit for family leave for certain self-employed individuals. And the bottom line here again is that you just follow the instructions here. So everything revolves around the number of days you were unable to work during COVID, okay? And so this is actually the form for the year 2020. And I want to show you the form for 2021. Now the form for 2021 is a little more convoluted in terms of like if you remember back back during COVID, things were a little ramped up. So for in 2021 especially. So 2021's pretty straightforward also, but a little more convoluted. So same procedure. You have to put your name, first name, last name at the top of the form, and your social security number. And you have the same set of instructions here. So part 1, this is credit for sick leave for certain self-employed individuals. So we're speaking about it's not for the full year though. We're speaking for the first 3 months of 2021, January 1st through March 31st. And so line 1 to line 15, pretty straightforward. The second screenshot here, you have a line 16A all the way to 24. Again, you follow the math, pretty straightforward, nothing complicated. And part 2 is pretty straightforward also in terms of credit for family leave for certain self-employed individuals. So part 2, 25A all the way to 35. You can see this on the screen here. And part 3, actually, as you probably could see that part 3 is credit for sick leave for certain self-employed individuals. And here we are speaking about April 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2021. So again, line 36 all the way to 58. So bottom line here is that things are pretty straightforward. Part 4, you also have April 1st, 2021 through September 31st to September 30th, 2021. So I just wanted to show you what the forms look like for those 2 years. And I just want to say that there is a chance to claim your tax refund. This is your last chance. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. So what I'm talking about, let me give you a few pro tips here. So when I'm talking about your last chance to claim your tax refund, again, going back to what I said, we are speaking about what happened during COVID, the first 2 years of COVID, 2020 and 2021. Okay, and it's one of those things where you have to remember that we are speaking about the claiming your refund. So you have the expiration date. So you have 3 years. So you have this is 2024. You have the ability to still claim your tax refund related to Form 7202. And one thing I want to say here is that when we talk about the tax credit that you may have missed on, basically you have to really understand that it's all about going back to how much you could qualify for. Now, if your 2020 income fell below this limit, we're going to put this on the screen so you have a clear idea. So if your 2020 income fell below this limit, you might be able to claim EIC by filing by April 15, 2024. We're going to put this on the screen so you have a clear idea what I'm talking about. So 15,000 and no qualifying children, 41,000 and one qualifying child, 47,000 and two qualifying children, and 50,000 and 3 or more qualifying children. So this is kind of important. And those needing to claim refunds for the 2020 tax year have other possible tax credits in addition to EITC. They may be able to claim, including you have the additional child tax credit, the American Opportunity Credit, the adoption credit, the refundable credit for a prior year minimum tax, and the health coverage tax credit. And here, the Form 1040 is required, and also the credit for federal tax on fuels, Form 1040 required. So for the 2020 year, you must file by April 15th, 2024. For the 2021 tax year, you must be able to file by April 15th, 2025. Okay, so you have more time, so to speak. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about your last chance to claim your tax refund this year by filing to claim your EIC by April 15th, 2024. One thing I want to say here is that there are situations where you might say, well, you know what? What if I didn't file a tax return? So the IRS sets minimum gross income levels below which taxpayers such as you do not have to file a return. So, for example, for tax year 2023, generally taxpayers under age 65 who are single and made less than $13,850 or heads of household who earn less than $20,800 have no obligation to file the 2023 taxes unless special circumstances exist. So these non-filers may have overlooked the fact that their employer withheld income tax throughout the year, which is money the IRS owes them, right? Additionally, their low income may qualify them for tax credits only available by filing a tax return. That's why we tell our viewers and our clients in general to always file a return. You always want to file a tax return. So non-filers also forego the chance to receive the earned income tax credit by not filing. So just because you may not be required to file a tax return doesn't mean you shouldn't. I mean, you always have to file a tax return because you do not want to miss the opportunity to get a tax refund. And so when we talk about the EITC or any other credit in general, there is a certain number of days you have to really abide by. So once a tax refund is processed, it typically takes about 21 days to issue the refund. And the timeline to receive your return may vary depending on whether the IRS is backed up or if they need further documentation from you. There are also a variety of other reasons why your refund might be delayed. Okay, so when claiming your refund, you may want to double check that the address they have for you is correct, especially if you have moved in recent years, for any time sensitive correspondence they might send, or if they're mailing you a tax refund. Okay, I mean, generally it's better for the IRS to wire the refund to you, but if there's a case where they want to mail it to you physically, you want to think about that as well. Now, there are situations where the IRS may withhold your refund check. So if you have past due student loans, child support, and federal tax debt you owe, the IRS may actually withhold your refund. So it's important. Okay. Now, when we talk about April 15, now April 15, 2024 is the last day to file your original 2020 tax return to claim a refund. Okay. So if you miss the deadline, any excess in the amount of tax you paid every paycheck or sent as quarterly estimated payments in 2020 goes to the U.S. Treasury instead of to you. You also lose the opportunity to apply any refund dollars to another tax year in which you owe income tax. Now, there could be a situation where you would just listen to me like, you know what? I think I already filed my 2020 tax return, and I may need to amend it because of special circumstances, stuff that came to my attention that I didn't have back then. It's totally possible. There is a possibility for you to go back and amend your 2020 tax return. Okay. Now, one thing I want to say here is that it is totally possible and legal, by the way, to make corrections on your tax return. This is why originally I was just telling you it's just a lot better to file your tax return. See, if you hadn't filed your 2020 tax return, you would not be able to amend it. Okay, so mistakes happen even on tax returns. That's why the IRS allows taxpayers to correct their tax returns if they discover an error on a return that's already been filed. So when should you file an amended tax return? Well, there are times when you should amend your return and times when you shouldn't. Here are some common situations that call for an amendment. You realize that you missed out on claiming a tax deduction or credit. you accidentally claimed the wrong tax filing status. Let's say you filed married filing jointly, whereas you wanted to file the head of household or married filing separately. And if you need to add or remove a dependent, this is a significant change to your situation, to your tax family composition. Or let's say you forgot to claim taxable income on your income tax return, and you realize you claimed an expense, deduction, or credit that you were not eligible to claim in the first place. Now, before filing an amended return, make sure the IRS has already processed the tax return you need to amend. That way, it will be less likely that the IRS will get your original return and amended return mixed up. If you already received your tax refund, then you know the IRS has already processed your return. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about your last chance to claim your tax refund relating to the EITC. You got to file by April 15, 2024. Now, there are cases where you may not need to file an amended tax return, okay? You usually don't need to file an amended return if you discover math or clerical errors on a recently filed tax return. And the IRS will often correct those types of mistakes on its own. And if it's necessary, they will send you a bill for the additional tax due or a refund if the error was in your favor. Okay, so the IRS is pretty straightforward in that sense. And the thing is that you're not really required to file an amended tax return, but the IRS could actually require you. In other words, the agency could audit your previous year's taxes, which may result in an additional tax liability. So while the IRS typically audits returns filed within the last 3 years, it's better to get ahead of any potential issues, right? Mistakes happen, and they can be easily fixed by amending your return. So it's one of those things where you want to take the first step. And filing an amended tax return as soon as you can is highly encouraged. That way you can get ahead of any potential tax liabilities you may owe and minimize penalties, because you know what? Sooner or later they will catch the mistakes anyway. By they I mean the IRS. And so the IRS limits the amount of time you have to file an amended return to claim a refund to within 3 years from the original filing deadline, or within 2 years of paying the tax due for that year if that date is later. Okay, so if you're outside of that window, you typically cannot claim a refund by amending your return. So be very careful here. So this is what I said earlier. For your tax year 2020, for your 2020 tax year, the deadline is April 15th, 2024, and for your 2021 tax year, we are speaking about April 15th, 2025. Okay, and to actually file your amended tax return, you have a pretty straightforward situation. Pretty straightforward. Collect your documents. So you want to gather your original tax return and any new documents needed to prepare your amended return. And if you need to correct the income you reported on your income, you may have a new or amended W-2 or 1099 form. If you missed claiming a tax deduction or credit, you will need documentation to support the new deduction you are claiming, such as a receipt for a charitable donation, new or amended Form 1098 mortgage interest statement, or Form 1098-T to claim an education credit. So once you do that, once you collect your documents, get the right forms. This is important because you do not want to actually, because the IRS form for amending a return is Form 1040X, not Form 1040, Form 1040X. You also need any forms that will be impacted by your change. Okay, so for example, if you are changing your itemized deductions, you also need a copy of Schedule A for that tax year. The good thing is if you're filing things, if you're amending the return electronically, the software will actually specify what you need for you. So when we talk about Form 1040X, 1040X is pretty straightforward, nothing really complicated. We had actually dedicated an entire show to Form 1040X, but real quick here, I just want to say that Form 1040X allows you to do a lot of things. You have 3 columns. So column A, column B, and column C. So column A shows the numbers previously reported on your tax return. So you want to use the copy of your tax return you gathered in step 1 to complete this column. And column B actually shows how the amounts from your original return needs to increase or decrease. Let's say, let me give you an example. If you are amending your gross income to include $50 of interest income missing from your previously filed tax return, you will enter $50 on line 1, column B. So it's all about showing the delta from one year to another, okay? And then you have column C. So column C actually shows the correct amount. Just add the amounts from column A and column B and enter the results here. So again, I'm not going to really spend a lot of time on Form 1040X because we have an entire show, 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, really dedicated, really focused on Form 1040X. So here, in the interest of time, I'm really going a little faster, okay? And so, but again, if you use software such as TurboTax or H&R Block or Tax Add or Tax Layer to file your amended tax return, things can go a little faster, okay? And one thing I want to say here is that in terms of submitting your amended returns, things have gotten a little easier because beginning with the 2019 tax year, the IRS allows you to e-file amended tax return if you file the original return electronically and provided that your tax software supplier supports electronically filing amended returns. So to amend a return for 2018 or earlier, you will need to print the completed Form 1040X and any other forms you are amending and you want to attach any necessary supporting documentation such as any new or amended W-2s or 1099 forms. Other forms or schedules they have changed, such as Schedule A if you updated your itemized deductions, and any notices that you have received from the IRS regarding your amended return. And you want to mail all the forms and documents to the address provided in the instructions or electronically file the return if you are able to. Now let's talk about what really happens if your amended return increases your refund. It's one of those, it's a good scenario anyway, right? Now, if amending your tax return increases the refund amount you should get, what happens here is that everything is done automatically because the IRS through the Department of the Treasury will issue an additional, they will issue you an additional refund. And this refund will be the difference between the original amount and the adjusted higher refund amount. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's say your original refund was $2,500, right? But your new total tax refund is $3,500. So with the adjustments, so we have a delta of $1,000 there. So we have an additional $1,000. So the IRS will cut you a check or will wire you $1,000 to your account. And the IRS has increased flexibility for how to get your refund. So you are able to get it electronically via check or, all kinds of possibilities are good. You can even split the direct deposit into more than one account. This is totally possible. And now, if the amended return results in a higher tax bill, you need to mail a check with the amendment or go online and make a payment at the IRS websites after logging into their system. And by making a payment now instead of waiting for the IRS to send you an invoice, you can minimize the interest and penalties you will owe. And so the IRS has a complete protocol to follow when it comes to processing a return. So keep in mind that if you file an amended return on paper rather than the e-filing process, it can take the IRS 8 weeks or longer to process the amendments. You can check the status of your amended return using the IRS Where's My Amended Return. Wait about 3 weeks from the date you mailed your return for the information to show up in the IRS systems. Okay. And if you amend your federal income tax return, you will likely also need to file an amended tax return with your state. Each state has its own form to amend a tax return, okay? And but again, if you go with software, things can go a lot faster, okay? And you may need to update your withholding after amending your return. So let's say if your amended return shows that you owed a lot in taxes or received a large refund, you may want to update your withholding. You can use all kinds of tools online to figure out what kind of withholding status you should really have. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about your last chance to file to file your taxes related to the year 2020. And so let's do a recap here. So I gave you the overview, the pro tips, and now the recap. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.